All right, welcome to the Explainer. We're going to kick things off today with a question that's frankly pretty important for all of us.
No, really, take a second. What does it take? It's not just about shiny new equipment or, a fancy building. It's way deeper than that. It's about building a system that makes sure every single patient gets the absolute best care every single time. So, where do you even start? What's the plan for something like that?
Well, in the world of Indian healthcare, the answer is NABH. And you should really think of it as the official blueprint. The National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers, they're the ones who lay out the detailed plans, the specifications for building not just the hospital, but a true culture of excellence.
And here's what's so critical to understand. The real focus here is on culture. This isn't some simple checklist. It's not about just, ticking boxes or having perfect paperwork for an audit. NABH goes so much deeper. It asks the tough questions. Is quality actually built into the foundation of how this place runs? Is safety just part of everyone's DNA, from the top brass all the way to the cleaning staff?
Okay, so if NABH is the blueprint, what's actually in it? Let's go ahead and unroll these plans and take a look at the core structure.
So the whole thing, the entire framework, it's built around 10 big chapters. You can think of these as the 10 major sections of that blueprint, with each one covering a totally critical piece of how a hospital should work.
And these 10 chapters, they're split right down the middle into two main parts. On one side, you've got the patient-centered standards. These are all about the patient's actual journey. Then on the other side, you have the organization-centered standards. These are the internal systems, the backbone that makes that great patient care even possible. And listen, you absolutely can't have one without the other. They're two sides of the same coin.
So, let's start with the stuff that directly impacts the patient. You've got AAC, that's Access, Assessment, and Continuity of Care. Basically how you get into the hospital and move through it. Then there's COP, which is the actual care of patients. MOM, Management of Medication, which is obviously crucial for safety. PRE, that's Patient Rights and Education, making sure you know what's going on. And of course HIC, Hospital Infection Control. I mean, that one is just massive for keeping patients safe.
All right, now let's look behind the curtain at the machinery that makes everything run. This is the stuff a patient might not see, but they for sure feel the results. CQI, that's Continuous Quality Improvement, the idea that you're always trying to get better. ROM is Responsibilities of Management, making sure the leadership is on the hook. FMS is Facility Management and Safety. Is the building itself safe? HRM, Human Resource Management. Are the people trained? Are they supported? And finally, IMS, the Information Management System, making sure all that critical data is flowing where it needs to go. This is basically the engine room of the hospital.
Okay, great. We've got the blueprint, but a plan is only as good as the execution, right? So how do you know if the crew is actually following it? Well, that brings us to the audit, the inspection phase.
So every single one of those standards we just talked about gets broken down even further into what they call objective elements. And these are the nitty-gritty, non-negotiable details. Think of it like this. If the standard is the big goal, the objective element is the specific, measurable thing you have to do to prove you're actually hitting that goal.
And here's a perfect example to show you what I mean. It's not good enough to just have a policy about patient rights, maybe stuck on a wall somewhere. No, the objective element demands proof. It asks, are you actually telling patients and their families about their rights when they're admitted? See? It takes a big idea and turns it into a clear, checkable action.
And how do they check for this stuff? Well, the assessors use a full 360-degree approach. Yeah, they'll look at your documents and records, but then they're going to walk the floors. They're going to interview your staff, your nurses, your doctors. They'll just observe what's happening. And critically, they'll talk to patients and get their feedback. There's really nowhere to hide. The system has to be real, not just on paper.
The scoring system itself is super straightforward. For every single one of those elements, you're either fully compliant, and you get 10 points, partially compliant, which is 5 points, or non-compliant, which gets you a big, fat 0. It's a really clear, no-nonsense way to measure performance.
Now, here's the number that really matters: 70%. To get accredited, a hospital has to score at least 70%, but here's the catch. It's not an overall average. It's 70% in each and every one of those 10 chapters. You can't ace patient care but fail on facility safety and still pass. Nope. You've got to be solid, consistently, across the entire board.
So a blueprint is great, and an inspection process is necessary. But they're pretty much useless without the right crew to actually build the thing. So let's talk about the people.
And this right here is probably the most important message for any hospital going for NABH. This is not a one-person job. It's not something you can just hand off to the quality manager. No way. This is an all-hands-on-deck mission. Real success comes from creating a shared culture where everyone cares about quality.
I mean, just look at how this breaks down. Top management, they have to provide the vision, the drive, the resources. The quality manager's kind of like the project coordinator. Your clinical staff, the doctors and nurses, they're on the front lines. They're the ones living these protocols every single day. The support staff makes sure the whole environment is safe and clean. And get this, even patients have a role to play by giving feedback and knowing their rights. Literally, everyone is a stakeholder here. And finally, let's be clear about something. Getting that accreditation, that's not the finish line. Not even close. A great building isn't just built once and then forgotten. It has to be maintained. And the exact same thing is true for a great hospital. This really is the biggest mindset shift of all. NABH isn't a final exam that you cram for, pass, and then forget everything. It has to be a living, breathing system of continuous improvement, something that becomes a core part of the hospital's identity. So how do you keep that system alive and well? Well, you're constantly reviewing your policies. You're running mock drills for emergencies. You're tracking quality with actual hard data. And you're always bringing everyone back to the table to ask that simple question. How can we do this even better? It's a nonstop cycle of excellence.
So I guess we'll just leave you with this final thought. Do you see NABH as just some external audit, a checklist you have to get through, or do you see it as an incredible internal opportunity, a chance to truly transform your organization, align your entire team, and build a hospital that is genuinely, lastingly great? Because how you answer that question, well, that defines the entire journey.